you believe in the supernatural?
Download the Legacy Edition of Spirit Blade, a full past audio drama, for free at spiritblade.com.
Our friends over at SPECULATIVEFaith.com are lending us another article, this one titled Past the High Point, written by Shannon McDermott, published on August 26, 2020. She writes, "Genuinely compelling villains, although always too few, exist in fair abundance. Much more rare is a compelling villain who charts a convincing and satisfying redemption arc. Rarest of all is a compelling villain who, at the end of his satisfying redemption arc, does not promptly die. It grows predictable and occasionally rather bleak. Why can't a villain finish his redemptive arc without finishing himself? Practicality is one driving reason. A redeemed villain is an ex-villain, and where do you go from there? Once a villain gives up all the interesting plans that made him so necessary to the story, gives up world domination or mad scientific experiments or destroying people's lives for his personal satisfaction, what does he do next? It would be easy to say that he becomes a hero. It would not be easy to do. Not everything that makes a good villain makes a good hero. We are entertained by the badness of villains, if it is done with elan. Insouciant lies, frank selfishness, grandiose pomposity, force-choking, incompetent subordinates, etc. But in the transition to heroism, even the most stylistic wickedness has to go. Worse, the villain's role, so excellently played, must be abandoned. And once all that is stripped away, what do you have left? You are in danger of changing a superior villain into a merely adequate hero. Not all creators know what to do with a smashing villain who entirely leaves off villainy. The story grows to harder to tell. There is high drama and even clarity in the conversion of villain to hero. Life, on the other side of redemption, sinks to something quieter and more muddled. It is easier to write a redemptive death than a redeemed life. And if the redeemed villain dies with all dispatch, his career as a hero will be too short to be disappointing. Aside from the creative challenge of an ex-villain, certain thematic and even philosophical ideas drive the villain's redemptive death. Greater love has no one than this, that he lay down his life, and people believe this almost by instinct. Truly wonderful villains do truly terrible things. To do the best thing is a powerful culmination of the villain's journey to heroism. In the case, and it usually is the case, that the villain has innocent blood on his hands, a heroic death is a kind of atonement. Steal life, give life. It satisfies justice. There are crimes that cry out for punishment. A change of heart does not buy impunity from every horrible thing done to other people. In his self-sacrificial death, the redeemed villain pays his debt. That is why the redemption arc is so often completed with a heroic death. It is emotionally powerful and satisfies a sense of rightness that is more felt than articulated. It is also the safest creative choice. If you don't really know how to continue the villain or his story past the high point of redemption, you might as well stop there and leave them wanting more. But whatever excellent reasons exist for some redemption arcs to end in death, there is no reason that they all should. Occasionally, if for no other reason than to keep us guessing, creators should take up the challenge of an ex-villain who lives as a hero instead of dying as one. We grow fond of our compelling villains, even in their murderous phase. We cheer them on their journey to the light. We would like, after it all, to be able to keep them around. It's tiresome to be compelled to end all such stories feeling sad. Every once in a while, it would be good to believe in grace, enough to say that the villain, too, lives happily ever after. This is a really interesting and common phenomenon that McDermott is commenting on here, and I personally have struggled to really enjoy many villainous arcs that end in a heroic death, because I understand the catharsis, and I've even felt the catharsis myself of a villain turning good, like Darth Vader being the classic example, and then sacrificing his life. But many times, and arguably Darth Vader included, I think to myself, is their death saving one person or this many people or whatever, is it really equal? Does it really make up for what they have done? Because the truth is, at least outside of a world like Star Wars, in the real world, we owe God absolute obedience and perfection. And so Darth Vader should have been living the right way anyway, and so he can't really make up for what he has done, because he should have been willing, without having killed a bunch of people already, to sacrifice his life. That is what God calls us to. That's the high calling of perfection that we're called to pursue. And so even though we feel that kind of catharsis, I think to myself, and even explored this, if I can selfishly plug the Spirit Blade audio drama trilogy, I explored this with one character who really goes down a dark path and then really tries to sacrifice himself so that he can feel like he's atoned and made good. But another character's observation is, do you really think that sacrificing your screwed up life is going to make up for all the lives you've destroyed? All these people that have names and families and stories that are just as rich and important as your own. How do you think that you sacrificing your one screwed up life is going to make up for all that you've done? What kind of screwed up math is that, essentially? And so it's a problem that we really need, as McDermott observes, we need grace. And I would specify specifically, as I think McDermott intends, we need the grace of Jesus to be applied. We need the righteousness of his sacrifice to be applied in order for the math to make sense. And until then, it just doesn't. And we're left with many endings to villain story arcs that have this self-sacrificing moment that dramatically has a satisfying catharsis, but rationally does not really make sense. So anyway, yeah, that's a really interesting topic. I obviously had a lot of passion about it. So I was grateful that Speculative Faith and Shannon McDermott would touch on this issue and give me a chance to kind of blab some of my thoughts as well. You can read Past the High Point and a ton of other great articles over at speculativefaith.com.
Do you believe in the supernatural?
Download the Legacy Edition of Spirit Blade, a full past audio drama, for free at spiritblade.com.
Right now, I'd like to take some time to write a tune for pre-made rhyme. The lyrics kind of never change, but the melody gets rearranged. I never know what I'll create to say how much I appreciate Gabriel Stinson, Brian Franklin, Olin D. Branham, the Cellcast, Drew Rubb, Winston Crutchfield, Libre, and J.D. Myers. Thank you for supporting me, and SBP and CGC. And now to all who hear this tune, thank you as well. Please come back soon. Want to hear your name in song? Check out our page on Patreon.
That was a little creepy, wasn't that? Let's be honest, that was all just a little bit creepy.